Hello and welcome to another episode of the Happy Head podcast. Today, I've got the pleasure of talking to Mr. Neil Jordan. Good morning, Neil. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm very good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Grey, wet, and horrible and miserable outside my window. What's it like where you are?
Yeah, probably the same. But it's watering the seeds, ready for spring.
Yeah, there's always a positive outlook on something, isn't it? It's really cold, so it's killing off all the bugs and all this kind of
That's
stuff.
right.
And the rain is, making the roads clear and the pathways clear and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. At least we shouldn't have a drought this summer.
If we have a drought, I'm going to be so skeptical because bloody hell, it's done nothing but rain for the past 3 months.
Yeah, that's right.
So I mean, I
Yeah,
can remember a few years ago when there was a massive drought, and there's a big lake a few miles from me, and it's actually a drinking water lake. And so they've got this
okay.
big machine in the middle that kind of sucks all the water in for processing. And you can
Okay.
actually see the base of this big water intake thing. And the edges of the lake were cracked and dried. I'm thinking, yeah, this is a bloody drought, this is.
Yeah.
But, you see occasions when I think, oh, it's going to be a drought. It's pissing down with rain. How can there be a bloody drought when it's raining this heavily? But I'm guessing the problem we've got is that so much of the land now is covered in concrete that all of this water gets drained away out to sea and doesn't actually get a chance to be absorbed by the land and all that
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah. Very good point.
Here endeth the lesson of geography today, and we'll talk about mindset and other stuff. Now, Neil, it's going to be fair to say, I believe, that you have had quite a checkered past, shall we say. I think that's the polite phrase.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. And I don't regret 1 minute of it.
So tell us
Really
about
good
it.
fun. Okay, so I left school at at 14. I got a job in Basildon, working in a menswear clothes shop, and it was expensive menswear. And the only two people that you really got in there were like construction workers who used to come in on a Friday, buy all the gear, fight all weekend, go out, get drunk, fight, and then come in the following week because it had all got torn and like bloodied, and or you had drug dealers come in because they're the only two people that could really afford the clothing, and that's the kind of. So I ended up on this pathway of kind of getting influenced and connected to what my mum called the wrong crowd, and yeah, it did end up leading to some very dangerous and dark positions, which thankfully I've, unlike some of my friends, I managed to find my way out of.
It's strange, isn't it, that you've got a store like that caters to two kind of clients. You would have thought that they'd learned the lesson, maybe adjusted their prices or changed their stock levels.
Look, the guy was making too much money, so why change a business model when it's working?
Yeah, I guess you're right. If you're making the money, it doesn't matter who's buying it, as long as the money's legit.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
So, how did you? Because we've talked before about this, and quite some dark and not very pleasant stuff. But how did you get yourself out of that? How did you kind of escape that world and come onto the light side, as I would say, if you were a Jedi Knight?
Well, look, I had to. I very nearly didn't. Yeah, I nearly OD'd 3 times. I was like homeless 4 times. I honestly thought I wasn't going to live past 21. And we used to joke. Well, I used to joke like that I'm going to die tonight. Saying it now just sounds like mad. But the cocktail of drugs that I used to do and the positions that I used to try and get myself into, like I would I'd try and get beaten up. Like, this is the mad thing. I didn't fight to win. I fought to get beaten up.
Why? I mean, I can understand. Well, I don't understand violence at all, but I can understand getting into a fight because you want to beat the other guy up. But why did you get in fights to get beaten up? What was the thinking behind that?
Well, you're not. There's no rational thinking. It's purely emotion based, isn't it? And there was such lack of self regard and self worth and self love. There was almost. I couldn't handle the feelings inside at a very young age. I remember when I was very, very young, we drove past, it was raining, and my mum was a single parent at the time, and it was really raining hard, and we were driving along like you do, like normal speeds, and I saw this old lady with two shopping bags, like walking in the rain, yeah. And I said to my mum, "Can we stop and pick her up?" And she's like, "You don't like just randomly pick people up." Like, and by this time, she's carried on driving because she's driving to her destination. But I'll never ever forget the deep confusion that I had at that moment. Yeah, I could not comprehend. I couldn't understand someone's in need and we're not stopping to help them. Couldn't get it. And I think my life after that was a series of events that kind of repelled me against what society and the world was offering me. So by the time of my teenage years, it was like complete rejection. Yeah, it's like you're all hypocrites, you're all liars, nobody helps anyone, you're all self-centered, I can't trust none of you. And so the drugs was an escape. I didn't have the courage to commit suicide. Not saying that you've got to be courageous to commit suicide, but I definitely had suicidal thoughts at some point. But it was just, look, let's just get absolutely obliterated. And if I die, I die. It don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the kind of blasé kind of attitude.
I get that moment that you just mentioned about driving past the lady with the shopping bags. It's probably a pivotal moment because when we're that age, when we're young, we're told that we're supposed to be good, we're supposed to help people, we're supposed to be honest and all the rest of it. But that kind of like there's a person there in need, like you said, and you're driving past them, ignoring them, kind of puts everything on its head, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but you're not taking on. You're not thinking like an adult that has to analyze everything and using logic and personality doesn't come from education. It might influence it and shape it, but we're born with personality, and I think we all have a deep and even spiritual barometer, and some it's stronger for others than others. And there's definitely been a thread throughout my whole life where I'm not going to be a lemming and just accept what the group says is right or wrong. I've got my own internal barometer and I'm going to follow that. And if it ends up isolating me and I'm not accepted by the group, then that's fine by me, because I'm not a lemming and I'm not gullible.
You mentioned that you'd been homeless 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that happen?
Well, quite often, like a couple of times, I was in relationships, and I just realised that day that I needed change, so I would then just leave. Quite often, just take my clothes and leave everything there and just start again.
So just literally walk out and have nothing, nowhere.
Yeah, communicate. Like, look, no offence, nothing personal, but moving on. Adios.
Adios into nowhere, not like straight into another relationship or straight into another thing.
Nah.
Just out.
Yeah, no. But I'd already been kind of, when I was young. There were times that there was a time that I was homeless when I was about 16. And that was kind of my barometer. So it kind of felt that that was sort of normal. And I always landed on my feet. Like, look, at the end of the day, you go out to a nightclub, you can always find somewhere to go and put your head down afterwards. Always. There's always someone's got a party going, or you end up going back to a girl's house or whatever. So, and I'd be going out most nights of the week. So you kind of like stay up late, and then you don't need much sleep because you just pass out anyway.
Yeah. What was the longest period you were homeless for?
A couple of months, but I'm an opportunist and a survivor. So like there's and people liked me. So So there would always end up someone helping me out. I remember when I was 16, I went to the job centre and I said, look, I'm homeless. I said, I've got nowhere to go. I've got no money. What can you do for me? I was such a gobby little thing, right? And I said, like, what can you do for me? And they were like, right, we'll give you this thing. They called it a bridging loan, right? For 6 weeks or something, 8 weeks. And it was like pittance and a list of B&Bs. And I just went, do you know what? I'll do better on my own. Don't worry about it. And I just left and did better on my own. I ended up with a bedsit flat when I was 16. So after that period of it was a few months dossing on sofas and girls' houses and this kind of thing. And I left my suitcase of clothes around a trusted friend. And because I worked at the clothes shop, my attire was pucker, like really good. He was selling my clothes out of the suitcase.
The trusted friend, eh? Always.
Oh, yeah. Which just kept reaffirming, all these experiences just kept reaffirming, trust no one, even though I was completely vulnerable because I had nowhere to go. And there were times I had to go and steal my food, like to eat. Like I'd have to go into the little convenience store and nick my food, or like meat pies and stuff. Like otherwise I wasn't going to eat. But it was there was never any consistency, whether it was bad time or good. Yeah, it would very quickly change because I'm a mental health first aider now. And when we went through the definition of trauma, I was like, oh my God, I'd have like 3 traumas in a day. Yeah. I'd definitely have a couple of traumas a week. Someone beating me up and someone lying and losing money here, and like something would always happen. It was just mental. It was mental.
How do you think you survived? I mean, let me go back. How long did this go on for before you kind of found a way out? So 16, you left home and things kind of kicked off from there.
Look, I was fighting at school at 10 years old, yeah, at junior school and stuff. Then I went to senior school and started smoking, and then I'm still fighting. And then I started gas canisters, and then it was speed, and like then hash, then acid, then ease, then coke, then crack. Thank God I didn't get into heroin because I don't think I'd be here. I think I'd have got into it too. I'd have enjoyed it too much. So I've done the whole lot, and so that kind of started at 11 with cigarettes, and then that went right through until I met my wife when I was 24. But my real turning point wasn't until I was 28, so quite a long period of time.
How did you survive that period? That was my question. How did you actually get through that and to see where you are today? Because you've gone through some shit.
Stubborn bugger. Just so determined. Determination. It all came from inside because through all of that, I never had counselling, I never went rehab, I never had any external support really. I did the whole lot myself. Meeting the missus at 24, we're still together now, 24 years in Feb. Meeting her stabilised me, but I was still a lunatic, but nothing like what I was before, because like she said, she wouldn't have even considered being with me. So I'd already started to calm down. But my mate was murdered. He was like an older brother to me in 94. And he came to me for help the week before, and I just didn't know what to say. I was only a young man, 22-year-old. And he was still on crack. I'd kind of got off it then. He was on crack, had a kid come in, and he was under a lot of pressure. And he sort of opened up to me, and I just didn't know how to deal with it, because when I'd opened up to him when I was young, he thought I was like turning homo. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I was coming on to him. So I learned then that you didn't open up. And then when he opened up to me, it totally and I think that's part of the reason why I've ended up on the pathway that I'm on, because I couldn't help him, and I was going to definitely make sure that if anyone came to me for any type of help, no matter how deep, I'd be strong enough to be able to help them. And I'm definitely in that position now. But that was a pivotal time, definitely. Definitely.
So, what was it that got you out of that stopped you taking drugs, that kind of stabilized you and got you to where you are today? What was the thing that kicked it all off?
Okay, well, I think there's a series of things. I got to 21 and I was like, oh, bloody hell, like I got here. Now what do? Yeah, so there was that. Then a year later, my mate Keith got murdered, and I had more fights after that. Like I thought I'd nearly killed someone, and had to do a runner, and like there was definitely a lot more fights after that period where I was just like all this pent up stuff and blame. I partly blamed myself for his murder. And I held on to that for 23 years, and that definitely self-sabotage and all of this sort of stuff. So there was that. Then I met my wife now, a year and a half after that. So she stabilized. And then I started really exploring, like there was two lessons. One was I was listening to a Radiohead tune. You do it to yourself, you do. I think the tune's called Just, but the chorus is you do it. And I was sitting there having a spliff, gaming, because marijuana was nothing after all the other stuff I'd done. So it was just having a spliff and playing this game. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, you do it to yourself. So I blamed my parents, the government, friends, girlfriends. It was everyone else's fault for my problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then this chorus started to make me, oh my God, yeah, it's me. And then I started to review all my past turning points, and through that process, then realised that in every pivotal moment, I had a choice of how I responded, and that was a huge kind of light bulb moment. And then I heard a story about Tibetan monks. Not actually. I don't think they were monks, but this anyway. What they would do is they would take their young men. Maybe it was to get into the monastery. I can't remember the context, but they would basically wrap them in a cold blanket, a wet blanket, get them to lie in the snow, and they had to dry the blanket just through mind control and breath. And once I heard that story, I think they had to do 3. And then it was like, you're a man, my son, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that just blew me away. It was like, because I've done a lot of LSD and mushrooms, and I was always the one that didn't have the bad trip. Even though I was the youngest, people used to come to me like, Neil, I'm spit, like it's doing my nutting, and I would talk them through and all of this kind of stuff, because mentally I was very strong. And it then dawned on me, oh my God, the power of our minds. Like, wow. And then that started this thirst for knowledge and deeper understanding. And then I learned how to meditate when I was 28. And I think it was those series of points that shaped that direction.
You mentioned that you didn't have any counseling or didn't go through rehab. How did you get yourself off all of those hard drugs, for want of a better phrase, and get yourself clean?
I lost everything, including the respect to my friends. I had no money. I had no friends. I lost everything. And when you got, I wasn't prepared to mug people. I was never like that. I might have been naughty, but and I even peddled a bit of drugs. But I always had the reputation that Neil don't lie. Yeah, and I wouldn't just go and mug people and burgle houses to feed my habit. I was never like that. So when I had no opportunity to get him in gear, I was left with like, well, I can't have none, and and everyone had gone off me, because yeah, when you get that low, Like you start off doing drugs as a recreational and social thing, fun thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then you end up, when we were doing the crack and that, I would purposely create arguments with my girlfriend at the time, so I could storm off out the door and then go on a 3-day bender. And it wasn't a bender going around pubs, and it was sitting in the house, not leaving that house for 3 days, just smoking pipes of like we call it crack, but I was a bit posher. I was three basing, but that's another story. But I would be sitting there smoking cocaine for 3 days. So when you lose self-respect, friends, money, I had nothing. And and the final straw was I lived in a shared house, and I'd really had to convince the house owner to let me back in. So I used to live there when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
and basically saying, "Look, I've got nowhere." I was quite persuasive. He let me have my old room, and then while I was there, the house got burgled because of me, and they weed all over my bed, and I had 3 replay shirts that had survived everything that I'd spent a lot of money on, and they took them, and it was then I realised, man, you got nothing. And then I got a job in a casino, and then things started to turn.
You got a job in a casino.
Yeah. Because I was very clever. I could still do the math instantly, which is what you needed to do. I even got onto the the craps table, which you only got onto if you was an excellent croupier.
And that was kind of like the start of leaving all the old life behind. And
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, but like I had hundreds of jobs after that, and I've never seen what society offers. I still don't. That's why I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah, I still don't agree with the way society does everything. Like, and that's why mental health is like everyone's got everything, and yet mental health is the worst it's ever been. So it proves that the current structure is not what's required.
you mentioned this Tibetan rite of getting kids to wrap themselves in wet blankets, lie in the snow, and then dry the blankets and get them warm themselves up just by the power of breathing and the mind and that kind of stuff. Did you try and do this yourself? Did you try and replicate it?
No. The lesson was enough. I don't need to do like I don't agree with extremity. Yeah, the solution for the human soul is the same solution for every human being on the planet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is what I've understood through my 20 years of study, meditation, and practice and teaching, is that there's only 2 qualifications you need. You need to be able to think and feel, and every single human being on the planet can do that. Whereas I know, like, there's extreme breathing techniques and the rest of it, but if you've got emphysema, then you can't do that. So that's you off the list. Yeah. Even with hatha yoga, hatha means discipline, like the body postures and stuff. If you've got no limbs, that's you stuff, isn't it? Yeah. Whereas someone paralyzed from the neck down can still think and feel, so they can still practice the meditation that I teach and practice.
And that is the solution that you mentioned. Then the meditation.
Yeah, we got a joke in the meditation game, like whatever your problem is, it's the same answer. Meditate more. Doesn't matter what your problem is. Meditate more.
I like that. Whatever your problem is, meditate more.
Yeah, because what you need, your problem only exists because you haven't either accepted or calculated the solution. So the more you meditate, the quicker you'll either accept what you're trying to resist, or you will work out the solution.
Okay. And you've been meditating now, you said, what, 20 years or so?
Yeah, first started, my first insight into it was the autumn of 2000. And then, I practiced the open-eyed form of meditation that I teach and practice. Started really getting deep into it in 2001. So yeah, 20 years this year.
Yeah, 20 years. Yeah. Wow. It's a long time, isn't it, when you look back? And for me, it's gone like that.
Well. Again, that's one of the things that we again train ourselves with is we don't look back.
You don't look back.
No, past is past. One of the phrases, like past only exists when you take yourself there. So I'm much better off learning from the past, but focusing on my thoughts now, because it's what my thoughts now shape tomorrow, next week, next year, next 10 years. So that's a much better use of my conscious and thought energy rather than going into the past, which is already gone.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Too many people spend too much time focusing on the past and trying to right the wrongs and wrong the rights. And it's a complete waste of effort because it's gone.
That's right. That's right. But you can learn from it. And that's why the past, present, and future it's the same timeline, isn't it? Yeah. But and we have this phrase as well in the meditation game, you've got to become the master of the three aspects of time. So it's understanding and learning from the past, understanding that my thoughts now create my future, and then planning and structuring the future, like with that awareness and that understanding.
Do you agree that, or do you disagree that time is a human construct and that without humans, there'd be no such thing as time? It's something that we've kind of created.
When you're talking about it as a measurement, and obviously for me and you to have this conversation, we need to give it a tag, because we're talking about what I'm actually talking about is consciousness, and which is completely metaphysical. But we need a tagging system, which is what communication is. We need a tagging system so me and you can have conversation, because we've not developed telepathy yet, and neither of the podcast listeners. So we need to have the conversation. So we need to be able to give it a tag. Mm-hmm. So it gives our conversation a construction. But every word I say and how I deliver it and my tone as we're chatting now is then going to trigger different things in different listeners. And they're going to get completely different concepts and realizations or understandings or frustrations that I had no intention of influencing. So this is the frustrating thing of language and communication.
Absolutely, because everybody interprets everything differently because of our, like we talked about earlier on, our own makeup, and what's got us to where we are now leads us to interpret every single thing differently.
Well, that's an ingredient, but people change like the weather. Yeah. So someone's interpretation today, give them half an hour and their interpretation be completely different based on whether they've had their cup of coffee or not yet.
Absolutely. It's like the old, there was a test they did years and years ago. They had a line of 10 people and they got two cars, one red one and one white one, I think it was, to have a collision. And then they said to everybody, okay, what happened? And in the instant, the 10 people gave 10 different variations of the story. And the interesting thing is they tested them, it was like a day later, a week later, a month later, and a year later. And each of the 10 people gave a different variation of the story at each of the different times.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. I had a personal learning about that. I bumped into someone I hadn't seen for like 10 years, and I went to him because we'd always share funny stories and that. And do you remember that night? And I can't even remember the story now because I've got rid of it. Remember that night when da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And he went, that's not what happened. And then he gave his version of events. And then I was like, wow, that's like one of my key stories. And someone else has got a completely different interpretation. And I learned then, even before the Tibetan thing and the rest of it, I learned then that, oh, wow, whatever's in here is just completely fabricated. So if it's fabricated, wow, I can start to choose how I create my recordings. And that's how I work with clients. That's the work that I do on myself. It's you bring me your confusion, your rubbish, your trauma, your addictions, your habits, and we can, once we highlight it, we can then reconfigure it, and then they go away and do the reprogramming.
I hadn't recognized this, but I was reading some stuff on neuroscience a few weeks back, and the brain is blind. the brain cannot see outside. We just get all these different stimuli coming in that are converted into electrical signals and what have you, and we then interpret what the information is telling us. And that sort of then explains to me why you have so many different people with a different view of the same thing. Like you just said, you and your friend have two completely different views of this one single event that happened whenever it happened.
You've got however many people on the planet, that's how many perceptions you've got.
7 billion, 7.5 billion or whatever.
And that's why there's war, that's why there's arguments, that's why, because everyone sees it different. And as soon as people's moods change, they even see it different. So they don't even know what they are fixed on and believe. So what we've got to look for, and this is how I've been able to stabilise myself in my own life. Still have bad days, still have problems, but I know I'm going to sort it out every time. Because we have to look for what's constant inside of us. And when this is what I've learned from the meditation, the practice and the experience, is my brain is just part of my body. I'm not a brain. Yeah, right. So consciousness, I'm like the driver, the brain is my steering wheel, my pedals, and the body is the car. Yeah, I am the consciousness, I am the conscious being. So it's within me and my consciousness that all of this stuff is recorded. And in Hindi, they use the word Sanskrit, the old word sanskar. And I really love that word because there isn't an English equivalent. The closest you can get to is impressions, but then impressions is just what goes into become a sanskar. A sanskar actually means it's kind of the programming, the information that is required to perform action. So everything that I do is running on these internal programs. And who put the internal programs there? Me. Well, what everyone does is they think somehow it comes external and enters them like a poltergeist. And then, so what everyone then does is they weaken themselves by blaming others, the external situation. And actually, it's nothing to do with those. It's like what you said. That data comes in from our physical senses, and then it's down to me to interpret the data, to read the data, and then decide what's helpful, what's not, and pick through it. But everyone's thinking so quickly that they aren't able to do that.
What was that word again?
Sanskaras. But unfortunately, the modern definition now is like good manners. That's the context it's used in. So like someone's sitting there with their feet on the table, they'll go, where's your sanskars? Yeah, like, where's your good manners? But when you start looking at the root definition and the Sanskrit definition, it means like to act. You've got three powers, yeah? You've got the power to think, the power to decide, and the power to act. And they're the three layers that our consciousness works on, like a gyroscope. Oh, actually, I've got it here. So it's like the mind. Yeah, so the mind is not the brain. Yeah, in how I teach and how I use the word, the mind is a tool for me, the conscious being, to use. So the mind creates thoughts, ideas, desires, and even feelings. But then what I need to happen is I need my intellect to catch it. And again, this is where intellectualizing comes from. But the intellect is our ability to reason. It's like our conscience, like Jiminy Cricket in Pinocchio. Yeah, well, that's like your intellect. That's what he represents. Mm-hmm. So it's like your intellect will go. It's like I want a strawberry ice cream. That's the desire. It gets to the intellect, and the intellect goes, well, you are officially a vegan now, so you shouldn't be having milkshake. Yeah? And it's fattening, and it's no good for you. And it's like, and then you have this internal battle and conversation, and then you go, do you know what? I'm on my own. No one's going to know if I have it or not, whether I'm vegan or not. Yeah, it's what I want. I don't care if I'm going to get fat. I'm going to have it. Yeah, and all of that conversation going on, that's the intellect. And what's happened in modern society is we're so overstimulated with our screens and caffeine and information. We're thinking so much. The intellect just goes, yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you've done it before. Don't worry, just do it again. Yeah. but it's going to kill me. Well, whatever. Don't worry about it. Yeah. And so all of this stuff is coming around. Then we perform action. Sorry, that's rubbed off. And then it's after the action, and even using our eyes and our ears is an action. Even a non-action is an action. And what that does is that then makes an impression inside my subconscious. But even subconscious isn't good enough for sanskar because it doesn't describe what it does. Yeah. So inside there, I've got my habits, my tendencies, my beliefs, my personality, everything, depending on whether it made a deep feeling impression or repetition. These are the two ways that we create sanskars. By repeatedly doing something, no matter how boring it is, cleaning my teeth, just do it without thinking, yeah? Whereas trauma or an epiphany, it's happened once, but it's got such a depth of feeling, such a powerful experience that it creates an instant sanskar. And that's what then influences behavior.
And you have to pause there. Neil, does this system of meditation have a name, or is it something you've developed yourself over time? Or
okay, well, the deep spiritual practice is called Raj Yoga, yeah. So it's like Raj means king, so it's king of the yogas because it's the mastering of the mind. But it's obviously very deep, very spiritual, and I've taught it in meditation centres as part of the charity that taught me for many years. And we'd call it like being knocked off the path. Yeah, people would get so far and then they go, "Oh, that's too much for me. That's too deep for me. Like, oh, I've had enough now." Whereas I wanted it wholesale. Yeah, like I've gone as big and deep, and it's part of my lifestyle. But what I realised was there was a whole section of society missing out because of this spirituality context. Because as soon as you mention the word spiritual, you get new agey perception, hippie perception, woo woo. And look, I'm as unwoo woo as, yeah, you know what I mean? I've even had it. I've sat down to teach meditation. You can see the audience going, "Well, where's the meditation teacher?" Like this. So I've kind of urbanized. I've taken all the deep spiritual, but what I've worked it into is this 6-step process. Mm-hmm. And no one on the planet is teaching it like this. And that took me like 8 years of going around doing workshops and plus my own 15 years worth of practice to develop this, to really explain what you're supposed to be doing inside here and the challenges that and solutions for the challenges that you're going to hit. And it's when you combine the two, the practice and the understanding of how your consciousness works, when you bring the two together, that's when the magic happens.
Gotcha. You said earlier on that you're an entrepreneur. Is this your business? Is what you do for a living?
This is this is a tool that I share with people if that's what they want, because this is what I've learned about meditation. You can't push it upon people, yeah, because you've got to do the graft, right? You can't sit there, shut your eyes, play some wow music, and you are gonna like reach enlightenment, right? You might feel calmer and temporarily a little bit better, but you're not changing nothing. Whereas this is about, I've gone from crackhead, from hooligan to hooligan, yeah? That's what I've done. And it's because I've reprogrammed my subconscious. I've understood the good parts of my personality and developed them, identified the weaknesses of my personality and destroying them. So the people I work with, it's more of a holistic approach to their whole personal development. Mm-hmm. I help entrepreneurs self-actualize. That's what I do. Yeah. And I work with the entrepreneurs that understand that personal development is key to even their business development. Yeah, they might have made all the money, got the house, got the car, got the holidays, got the dog, got this, got that, got the iPhone, and there's still something missing. And it's because they're not self-actualizing. They're not like potential, potent. It means power. Yeah. Potential. It's like what power do I have? You don't develop power through achievements and goals and wealth and doing stuff. It has to come from inside out, not outside in. And that's how I work with entrepreneurs and help them develop.
Okay, and it's that kind of 6-step process you take them through if that's the route
If
they
they,
need to go.
yeah. Obviously, I subtly get them to do aspects of this anyway, but they have to get to a certain level. Because with each session that we do, because of my 20 years of doing it, I can see where they're at, and I can see where, we build on that. They're kind of ready for that direction now. I've got one client, he's been with me 3 years, and he was an alcoholic, and he isn't one anymore.
That is amazing.
Oh, yeah. But I know it works because I've done it.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you've gone from,
Right.
we say, what, a hooligan to whole again. I mean, that's a brilliant tagline, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah. Well, that might even be my book title for but my book coach has said that's a vanity project to talk about my story. So what we're doing first is this kind of stuff, to a practical book that's actually going to help people sort themselves out.
Have you actually started writing it yet, or is it ready to go?
I start work with her tomorrow. So give me 3 to 4 months, and then it should be written.
Okay, so you've got to let me know when it comes out.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So apart from launching or starting writing this brand new book, what else is going on in your life, Neil?
I like working one-to-one with clients. So that's the main body of my work. I don't want to be an entrepreneur sitting around doing nothing with money just coming into my bank account. I actually prefer working with people and helping them. Yeah, I actually really like that, and I love helping business owners really overcome their life and business challenges and problems. I love the critical thinking and problem solving, and I love it. And later on this year, once we're COVID free, I'm really looking forward to we're going to be running in real deep dive one-to-one, like weekend and even week retreats, where I bring in other professionals as well, and we really dive deep with people. And then on the back of that, what I then want to do is I want to develop my own kind of program where I can go in and teach this in schools, but I want to pay for that. I don't want funding. I've worked for charities and all the politics that goes with that. I'm not interested. I'll pay for it. Either you want it or you don't. And then that's how I want to get the balance right of giving and working.
I've always said, and I've never done anything about it, but I've always said meditation should be one of the fundamentals in schools. Meditation and martial arts, which are fundamentally the same thing in certain respects.
Yeah, definitely. But like I do get a bit frustrated. Like, it's good that everyone, because 20 years ago, no one wanted to do it. Yeah, when I was doing it. Now every Tom, Dick, and Harry can teach you how to meditate. But what I'm noticing is the outcomes that people are achieving is just relaxation. So I have this thing, like this little diagram here, where you go negative, neutral, and plus. Yeah. So those listening on the podcast, it's just 2 lines with a minus at the bottom, and then N in the middle for neutral, and a plus sign at the top. Now, what people do is they find themselves in a negative state. I'm stressed like this. So then they'll do some mindfulness and meditation and stuff. They move from the negative state to neutral. Yeah. Oh, I feel better now. But you've got another whole layer of positive. And the positive is that what I was talking about earlier, it's actually getting into your subconscious and reprogramming it and stuff, not just neutralizing the negative experience. Because actually the negativity, and this is what I think is going to be a stronger thing that needs to be taught in schools, stop trying to avoid negativity. Actually embrace the negativity and learn from it, because when you're driving a car and you get the oil lamp light up, you now know you've got to put oil in the car. But you can't drive around going, "Oh, I hope the oil lamp don't come on. I hope the oil lamp don't come on." Yeah, and that's what people are doing. I hope I don't get stressed. I hope I don't. I hope everything goes my way today because I don't want any disasters or aggro or confrontation or. But actually, all of those experiences are your oil lamp lights. It's trying to tell you this is what you need to work on. If you're sad, you need to work on your happiness. If you're full of hate, you need to work on your love. If you're sad, I've done sad. If you're angry, you need to work at being peaceful. They're the three basic ones. And if you just worked in those three areas, you could do what I've done, because that's all I've really done is I've accelerated my own stock of love, peace, and happiness, what I call the three primary motivators. Everything we do is because we want those things, but we try and get them externally. But they're metaphysical internal experiences. So how can they enter you from outside? Backs it up.
Would you, last couple of questions for me, Neil.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer to this. Would you change, if you could go back in time? I know we can't anything, but would you actually change anything if you could?
No. Because if I've got 1.5% of me that wants to change anything, that means I'm not content with who I am today. And if I'm not content with who I am today, I've got big problems. Yeah. I've got to accept and learn. Both my parents, they split up when I was about 6, and they've both tried to apologise to me. And I've had to say to them, look, please don't apologise, because then you're saying you're not happy with who I am today. I'm happy with who I am today. Yeah, so don't. Why do we need to apologise about anything? I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't had exactly the same experiences and interpretations.
No, I completely agree, because life is learning.
Look, it is what it is.
Mm.
So even when we learn something from something, it's just a mind game. It's a trick to move our mind from negative to positive. That's all it is. But the more, just like a battery, we must maintain high levels of positivity. Positivity isn't happiness. Positivity is full of internal conscious thought energy that I can choose what I do with. Yeah, that's positivity. That's why I'm positive, Neil. Yeah, it's not because I'm happy all the time. I'll bring the missus in now. She'll tell you that. Yeah, but I will always find my stability. My ship will never sink, no matter how stormy the seas.
Final words. Any kind of, how can I put this? One piece of advice or suggestion or tip that you can give to people.
Okay, we've talked a bit, and I've loved it. I love. I'm sure it's come across my passion and my love for it.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I love talking the big stuff and like, look, stop playing small. Yeah, and I don't mean playing small in your business, or I mean stop playing small in your own mind. Yeah, you are so powerful. So we've spoken big, but I know the key to long-lasting change and taking steps is shrinking it down to small, achievable stuff. And the first thing I work with clients on is, are they hydrated? Right? If you don't know how much water you're supposed to have each day and you're not hitting that marker, you are shrinking your brain, which your mind needs to be able to function with your body correctly. If you're not hydrated, you are immediately stressing the whole system. So you could be sitting there going, I'm no good, I'm bad, life's like this, life's like that. What decision shall I make about my business? Shall I do this? Shall I do that? You'll just be full of confusion. And it's not because of the world, it's not because of you, it's because you're dehydrated. So my thing I say to people is get your basics in place. Water, fresh air, get out for a walk. And I know I said earlier that all the solutions are able for everyone, but that was about the meditation. You've got to find the ways, and sometimes we've got to get clever and really think about it. How can I stay hydrated? How can I get fresh air into my lungs? Because without those two things, we die.
Mm.
But surely if we improve the quality of those two things, our life improves. You need to move the body. Even if you're paralyzed from the neck down, you can only move the head. Then you'll have carers coming in and moving the body to get the blood flow. But you can still move your eyes. You can still, like, there's something you can do to still engage the what you've got. And that's so important. And find some quiet time every day just to step back from everything, even if it's 1 minute.
Neil, where can people reach out to you? Where's the best place to get you?
Well, this is the beauty of being called Positive Neil. You go on, you go on social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Clubhouse now. Positive Neil it is even my nickname on Clubhouse. positiveneil.com. The new website should be released by the end of this week. We're building it at the moment, so we're talking on the 19th of January at the moment. So my website is www.positiveneil.com.
Listen, Neil, it's been absolutely brilliant. I want to get you back on again because the conversation could go in so many different directions. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you. I love talking about this stuff, so I really appreciate the opportunity.
Hopefully speak to you very, very soon.
We definitely will.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. Bye.